So I've made it to the halfway point of Love Like the Galaxy. I'm at part 2 and I have some thoughts. Hi, I'm Monique. I am the host of Off by Purple Heart podcast, where I talk to you about K-dramas, C-dramas, BTS, and whatever else I want. I want to talk to you about Love Like the Galaxy. I believe this is going to be my part 3 video. So I previously went on record saying this 56th episode historical Chinese drama, I most likely was not going to be sticking it out for all 56 episodes, but at least my first impressions of the show were positive, right? So my girl Suitor from Hidden Love, which I've talked about so many times, I adore her, I adore that show, and I wanted to see her acting chops in other properties. So I started watching Love Like the Galaxy, and in my second video I got up to, I believe, episode 12. Now I'm at episode 28, so this is actually now going into part 2 of the show, and a lot of things have happened. I'm just going to be kind of talking off the cuff. I don't really have a lot of notes, but it's fresh in my mind because I literally was watching this show last night up until like 3 a.m. and this is a weekday and I still have work and, you know, my family and life and responsibilities and all that good stuff, but still I was up and I've been so entrenched in this show because it does so much more than romance. The romance actually is only now starting to blossom, but the show talks a lot about friendship and family dynamics, about loyalty, about standing up for oneself, finding one's own voice, following one's passion, and being able to kind of envision yourself being greater than your circumstances, and just how different people have different levels of intelligence. Not everything is about being the most well-read and having the most, I guess, studious academic career. There's so many different forms of intelligence and different forms of love and acceptance, and I was really taken aback by just how much the show covers. I actually really surprised about the amount of humor that's injected in the show as well, because I can tell you the show gets very gory and graphic. I remember in one of the episodes leading into the 20 to 28 arc, where we meet a really young girl and we see a rebel soldier literally kick her in her chest, and you could see her like kind of ricochet backwards, and you see the blood spurt out of her mouth, and you as a viewer to assume that her ribs were crushed and most likely she ended up puncturing a lung, which actually was revealed to have happened in the show. And this is going into spoiler territory, but I'm going to keep it relatively light because there's so many moving parts in the show. I couldn't even spoil you extensively if I wanted to because there's so much to remember. But she ends up getting these grave injuries, and the female lead, played by Suitor, it's kind of what I think pinpoints her into her arc of growing up. I think the character has a lot of grounds for why she acts the way she does, mainly because of just how unsupervised she was, because of her parents being part of the military and having to be out in war, being raised by her grandmother, who turns out to be probably the biggest comic relief of the show. She's very annoying, the grandmother character, but she provides a lot of physical humor. The actress really seems to enjoy that role, and she actually breaks up a lot of tension in the show. So I've kind of come around to appreciating the grandmother character because she pops up quite a bit, and she's just so unabashedly power hungry, just unabashedly about having as much trinkets, jewels, money in her possession. Doesn't matter how she gets it, she just wants to get it. And I just think it's so funny as through line, and you see how the other actors react to her as well, and the kind of the side eyes that she gets is super funny. And I have to say, the romance, I like that it's been slow burn. It's interesting because I mentioned in the previous podcast episode that there's about 3 suitors that the female lead ends up having in the show. And one of them, she almost comes across like she has a friendship with him. He's a very young character. He's very sweet, but he's very timid. He's very naive, and the political dynamics of his family has made it so that he basically gets trampled on all the time. And it's through his friendship and his deep admiration for the female lead. And he kind of has this puppy love situationship with her. And she, because her character from the very beginning has always been about wanting structure, wanting stability, and wanting safety. As much as the female lead in this show is very adventurous and she's very stubborn, she's very headstrong, and like she does what she wants, she's made it known that she wants to feel settled. She wants to feel grounded. She wants to know that her husband has direction and that they'll build a peaceful and beautiful life together. Because she had so much instability growing up, she was lacking in a lot of love because of how cruel her second aunt was, and just how frivolous and up in the air and not really that kind of grandmother either, right? And her brothers weren't really in the picture, even though they reemerge in these episodes in present day in the show. But she grew up without a lot of love, and it totally makes sense that she would strive for someone that would be quote unquote the safe option. So there's that one suitor, and his entire family breakdown was really interesting because in one of the later episodes too, they end up getting engaged, and that causes a lot of strife within the family. And you as a viewer are led to believe that she genuinely does love him, but you can tell her heart's really not in it, and it's mostly about having an ally in him, and that they both really like one another as people. They both have a really wonderful friendship, but it's not really like that soul-searing kind of love, that kind of passionate love that will grow into something really beautiful long term. You know, it's just the tragic happen chance of their circumstances with their relationship. I think I really enjoyed that piece, but it does then take away from the main love story, which we're led to believe is General Ling and the female lead. I'm blanking on her name right now because she does have a nickname in the show, but then there's also her actual name within the show as well. And then there's a third suitor who's like this arrogant, pompous ass who is a teacher, and he has, like, you know, the academic breeding, and he's very sneering and domineering in a lot of ways. But you also know that he's like seething, like deeply seething of jealousy, because he sees all these men circling her and he's trying to get his edge in, but he cannot for the life of him get her to see him that way, because she just has zero time for him. She has zero uses for him. She consistently brushes him off, and she gives it to him as good as he gives it to her, because he's very sarcastic within the show. And so many of the side characters and female side characters kind of flock to him, not because of just his academic and social standing, but because of his good looks. But she clearly does not give one rip about this man, and it bothers him to no end, which I also find is really funny as far as one of the other 3 suitors. And then of course there's the male lead, General Ling. And I love that Leo Wu in particular was able to have like comedic breaks. I feel like out of the 2 characters, like Shalisu, I think has really shown just the variety in her acting chops, because she does physical comedy extraordinarily well. As I said, I did not expect there to be as much humor in the show as there was, especially getting into like episodes 12 through like 28. She does a whole array of emotions. She does heartbreak really well, but she does physical comedy. She throws her body into it, like her facial expressions. She's just a lot of fun to watch. But I feel like out of the 2 characters, I feel like the General is the harder character to play. I feel like with stoic characters, it's so easy to be boring and to be stagnant, and you really need an actor that can bring intensity and energy and have a lot behind the eyes. Like, you can't really be blank, because you're a stoic character and you are not always the most emotionally available. and open, especially with the character's background, because he grew up in the military, even though the emperor has taken him on as a son and obviously has high regard for him. You know, he still grew up in the military. That's all he knows. He only knows about being authoritative and having to defend honor and basically kill for the survival of his people, right? So I'm surprised just how much Leo Wu was able to incorporate with that character, because I feel like that character is kind of stifling to play, and you really have to know what you're doing and bring a lot of energy and a lot of subtlety into your facial expressions. And he comes across like physically intimidating. I can tell he's a very small, slender guy, but in that role, he absolutely delivers on that. As much as he loves the female lead, as much as the show has found ways to interject humor here and there, there's a really funny dinner party scene in the show as well, because believe it or not, the female lead, she was engaged once and then had to break that engagement because of a really messy political scandal where a family is completely wiped out, and basically they're ordered by the royal court to essentially the female lead's family is basically ordered to have her break up the marriage because one of the love interests that she's with, the best friend character, the one that's really naive, essentially they want the one surviving member of that family who previously was linked to the same character to marry. So she has to break her engagement with someone that she really cherished, even though she may not be deeply in love with him, but she deeply cared for him and respected him, and had to break that engagement. She ends up, spoiler, she ends up getting engaged to General. And it's the whole meet the family kind of scenario, and they're scared and intimidated by him. He really feels awkward because he's not really used to having to be personable and have to, you know, show off and kind of impress the family kind of a thing. And he tries to bring in some jokes for humor's sake, and the jokes don't land well at all. If anything, they feel even more pressured. They feel even more intimidated by him, which I think was really funny. And there's so many little things like that too, but the romance has definitely kicked off. One of the things I really appreciate what the show did prior to it reaching to part 2 of the show is that even though you saw the chemistry and the intensity between the two leads, I knew that obviously with 56 episodes it's going to be slow burn, but we're still nowhere close to at the finish line yet. So I was thinking, what were they going to do to draw attention, because there's only so many times that she could be linked to another male character before it gets kind of ridiculous. So what's happened now, since she's now engaged to General Ling, it's that they don't quite understand one another yet. Like, they obviously have a deep love for one another, a deep reverence for one another. He saved her life multiple times within the frame of the show, and it's almost like a teasing thing now where it's like, yeah, of course she's in danger, of course General Ling just happens to pop out of like thin air. Like, there's this one scene where quite really they're like at the roof of a tall structure and he's hanging on by like one hand, has her gripped in his arms, is able to literally hoist her up mid-air as well, and his shoulder is like affected from a previous injury from a previous episode, and he's able to like do like a parkour move to get back on top of the roof of shingles. And it's so funny to watch it, but he's such a badass, right? So they do understand each other, but at the same time neither one of them really knows how to be in love, like in a romance. And it's just not, you know, saving one another's life and public declarations and having intense chemistry. You still have to be able to openly communicate with one another well. And they had some bumps along the way, and it came to the point where the female lead basically straight up told him, I don't like how oppressive you are being. Like, you're being really authoritative. You've ordered my family around. You got us doing all sorts of crazy exercises and stuff like that. You're controlling what I eat now because you're telling me not to eat at a certain time because it'll upset my stomach. You know, you're telling me to do this, you're telling me to do that. I feel really nervous around you. I just feel like it's too much. Like, I can't breathe. And he really took issue to that. He felt super offended. And you as a viewer watching this knows that what he's doing is because he cares, and he just hasn't been able to kind of refine that yet and kind of, you know, work to the beat of her drum and her kind of work to the beat of his drum and kind of be empathetic because of his background. Obviously, we know so much about the female lead because so much of the show is built around her and her family and the dynamics of the family. And we see the general a lot, especially with his interaction with the emperor. We see him with his mom, who is dealing with dementia, and we're aware of like some of the military characters as well. We get to see a couple of characters kind of pop up here and there, but you get a lot more focus on the female lead's family, so you get a lot more understanding and empathy for her background. But his is still kind of touch and go. But you get understanding that he genuinely loves her, and at no point in the show did I feel like, ooh, I don't know if I like the two of them getting together. Like, I completely understand where the other character is coming from, but I like that one of the obstacles of their relationship from getting like all the swoon-worthy scenes is the fact that they don't know how to genuinely communicate yet, and they have to kind of work through that, work through the differences of the personality. And of course, you know, the female lead has said more on one occasion, I'm my own person, I'm stubborn, I am not someone that's going to follow etiquette, I don't know etiquette very well, and I'm going to disobey you, I'm going to disagree with you. If I have issue with something, I'm going to voice that. I'm not going to be a submissive wife that's just going to go along with you and cower in fear of you because you are this great general that everyone fears. Right? And I really enjoyed that pushback, and I feel like the characters now are going to start on a different, healthier path, and then we're really going to start to see the romance kick in, which I'm really looking forward to. So as I said, I'm at part 2 of Love Like the Galaxy, and now that I'm 28 episodes in, I genuinely do think I'm going to go for the 56. I mean, things can go awry. I might change my mind, I'm allowed to, but I really am surprised by how much I enjoyed this. I did not anticipate staying up until 3 a.m. There's been quite a few shows lately that I've been actually staying up a lot later than I should be. Like, I just did not anticipate that I would fall in love with it, and that I would be okay with not the main romance coming to full fruition yet. But I'm also someone that has preached more than once that I'm all about the slow burn. I'm all about the payoff. So I want that. I want the payoff. And because this show is so highly regarded and so highly rated, I think it was released in 2022, but yet it's still like right up there. So I feel kind of shamed that I didn't start watching this sooner, because I knew I wanted to watch it because of suitor. I knew that. Still, I held off on watching it. Now I'm like, what the hell was I doing? I should have been watching it sooner. It's so good. One of the few things though that has stuck with me that I don't like though is the female lead's mom. I think she's horrendous, and even though normally I empathize with the characters of parents, especially when they come from a tougher background, and because she is a military woman herself and the father is also part of the military, they've been at war. I know that she sometimes can't see eye to eye with her daughter because her and her daughter are too similar in their thought process and as their ethos, but I just find the mother character so insufferable, and it's come to the point where how many times is this character going to degrade the female lead and publicly humiliate her, especially in front of people that are deemed as a higher social status in society and already kind of make fun of the character. And this mother has no problem in consistently embarrassing her and saying some of the most horrendous things and comparing her to her cousin Yang Yang. And it's just so heartbreaking to watch, and I credit suitor for how she portrays the heartbreak of fact that she can never seem to get things right with her mom. And I actually adore the mom. I think the actress is really good. Like, I recognize her from Hidden Love. So I was initially really excited to see that they would be paired off in this show, but the mother character is just so insufferable. So I'm hoping that we'll see more improvements. It seems like the mother character has finally got it in her head about how cruel she's been to her daughter, and maybe that she should let up. But every time I think that the mother character has a point, or I think there might be a turning point in the relationship, she ends up saying something or doing something that's just so cruel that I'm right back to my original thought process of, oh, she's horrible. Oh, she's a, you know, like, you know what I mean? But anyways, I'm gonna conclude this podcast episode because I've been rambling for quite a bit and I'm hungry. I gotta go. But yes, I am still watching Love Like the Galaxy. I'm still enjoying it. So if you're enjoying the journey along with me, please continue to support the podcast. If you're watching via YouTube, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. If you're listening via Spotify, you are a real one. Please share with whoever in your life that loves K-dramas too, and C-dramas and BTS and all that good stuff. Till the next episode. Bye.